And I think it's fair to say that it feels doubly great to be the first woman, because since I've been here in the last 2 weeks, a lot of the Nigerians that I meet highlight the fact that I'm a woman in this role and that this is significant. And for me, that makes me feel incredibly proud to be able to demonstrate that I can have an exciting, stretching job and also be a mother of a young family, and to be able to be a role model like that perhaps for other women and demonstrate that it's possible, it's okay to be ambitious, it's okay and possible to be successful is something very exciting.
And you're coming at a time just a few weeks before the International Women's Day. The theme for the year is Be Bold for Change. What do you think that means, and how do we interpret that, to our daily lives as women?
I'm really pleased to be coming just in time for International Women's Day, actually, because the empowerment of women and girls is something I feel incredibly strongly about. I did a master's in gender and development when I was at university, so it's really at the heart of my value sets, if you like, and something I want to pursue in my work. It means believe in yourself. Don't let yourself be constrained by any barriers, especially glass ceilings or informal rules of the game. It means be bold for yourself. Do what's right. Don't let anyone tell you not to dare if that's what you want to be. Feminism is about choice. It's about liberty. It's about being oneself.
And a lot of women are still, in that process of finding themselves, that process of finding their potentials, of finding out where they fit in and, how to make their voices heard. What do you say to such women?
Well, I'd say, first of all, I think you remain in that process for a long time in life. I don't think I've arrived. I don't feel that I'm out of that process. We're still always thinking about what's next, and it's okay. But I would say believe in yourself, aim high, don't constrain yourself. I think for women it is harder because there are informal rules of the game that dictate how we should behave. And I would say, what really makes you happy? What is it? And then follow that path and follow your heart. And if that's being an artist, then fantastic. If it's being a full-time mom, fantastic. If it's traveling the world, then fantastic. It's just about being oneself and aiming high and not letting anyone else put you down.
Did you ever feel intimidated in your process?
I often feel intimidated. But I think it's like when you're young and shy, you learn how to deal with that. And when you're grown up and you feel intimidated, well, you don't show it sometimes, and you just get on with things and you do the best you can do. I often have doubts, like a lot of people, perhaps more women than men, but it's about, making sure that's part of who you are, and that shouldn't stop you from daring sometimes to get out of your comfort zone.
One could easily think that it's easier, being a woman in the society that you're coming from than here. They would think because, you have more legislation and so on that protect women, it's a lot easier being a woman. But can you identify the basic challenges experienced by women in your society and women here in Nigeria and, let's say, Africa?
So I think your analysis is right. It is probably easier in the UK, in part because the legislation is such that there's no discrimination law, probably because there are role models at all levels, and because there are more resources for us to do what we want to do. That said, we have not achieved gender equality in the UK.
Contrary to what many people believe.
Contrary to what many people believe. And if you look at British papers across the weekend, for example, they were highlighting the level of sexual discrimination against women at universities in the UK, with one paper calling it endemic. So, we've got some serious issues in the civil service where I work. Again, women in leadership positions are fewer. So we have in the civil service women's groups that come together and try to encourage, and where we talk about the difficulty of being a woman in the workplace. There's a lot that needs to be done.
I'd like us to talk a bit about Brexit. This month, Prime Minister Theresa May is supposed to trigger Article 50, which would eventually lead to Britain leaving the European Union, begin the process, and the white paper should be prepared by the end of the month. Does Britain have enough confidence in its partners around the world, Nigeria, for example, that relations will be sustained, trade and otherwise, even when it leaves the EU? Are you that confident about that?
Britain, because of Brexit, is even more keen to be outward facing and engaging internationally than it was in the past. So we will be an international power, perhaps even more so post-Brexit than pre-Brexit. And precisely because of Brexit, we have to strike trade deals with all of our partners, and we have to invest in those relationships now more than ever. So looking to the future, I think you will find that Britain does engage in depth and try to strengthen trade relationships, in particular with partners like Nigeria, where we do have history and existing strong trading relationships. So on visas, there's no reason to believe that the visa regime, say, with Nigeria would change. The rules with Europeans coming in and out of the UK will change, but otherwise there's no reason to believe that's the case. And in terms of trade regimes, well, I think what we'd like is, say, to use the example of Nigeria, that in fact there be even more trade, even more business people coming to Nigeria and vice versa to secure deals, because the UK will not stand on its own. It does not want to. It needs to trade. It wants to trade. It remains an internationally minded country and will be so in the future.
Nigeria is currently looking towards boosting made in Nigeria goods for Nigerians, and this will mean a great cutback on imported goods when it is finally implemented. Are you concerned what impacts this could have on the British market here?
I have mixed views about that. I think it's fantastic to have made in Nigeria because that creates jobs and it demonstrates that Nigeria can produce excellent products. I do worry that when that goes with tariffs on some imported goods, then actually it means that those goods become incredibly expensive, and that can be at the expense of poverty reduction, in particular in Nigeria. So to use the example of sugar, if there's a 70% tariff on sugar, it's poor people who suffer, and that may create jobs in the short term, but it also means that for those producers or traders that require sugar in their supply chain, then it becomes very, very expensive to produce in Nigeria. So I think the trick is to balance the sentiment about the importance of having jobs with longer term competitive market-based economics, which enable more trade and ultimately a wealthier, more diversified economy and a transformation of the economy which will benefit all Nigerians.
Still ahead on the program, Malaysia expels the North Korean ambassador, escalating a diplomatic row between the two countries. Just stay with us.